The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden glow over the small town of Ridgewood. The sky was painted in hues of orange and pink, signaling the end of another day. Shadows stretched long and thin across the sleepy town, as if reaching out to embrace the coming night. The townsfolk went about their evening routines, unaware of the creeping darkness. A veil of mist began to rise from the valley floor, clinging to the forested hills like a ghostly shroud. The mist swirled and danced in the cool evening air. High above, shrouded in the swirling mist, a figure moved. It was almost imperceptible, blending seamlessly with the shadows and the fog. Massive and powerful, it descended the forested slopes with surprising agility. Each movement was fluid, almost graceful. Its eyes, two burning embers in the fading light, scanned the town below. Bigfoot had arrived. The legend had come to life. Ridgewood, oblivious and unsuspecting, continued its descent into twilight. The town's lights flickered on, casting small pools of light in the encroaching darkness. As the clock struck midnight, a sense of foreboding settled over the town. The air grew colder, and the silence became almost deafening. The townsfolk slept peacefully, blissfully unaware of the danger that lurked just beyond their doorsteps. Under the pale light of the moon, Bigfoot paused and let out a low, guttural howl. It was a sound that echoed through the valley, a chilling reminder that the night belonged to the creatures of the dark. The familiar neon glow of the double-barrel bar and grill pulsed like a beacon on Main Street. Inside, laughter and the clinking of beer glasses filled the air. It was Friday night, and the mood was light. Locals unwound after another long week. At a corner table, Sheriff Roy Thompson nursed a lukewarm coffee, his weary eyes scanning the room. He'd spent 20 years keeping the peace in Ridgewood. It wasn't always exciting, but it was home. Across the bar, Sally Mae, the owner, flipped burgers on the sizzling grill. She hummed along to the classic rock tunes pouring from the jukebox. Life in Ridgewood was simple, predictable. No one locked their doors at night. Everyone knew their neighbors. No one expected trouble, especially not tonight. The creature moved like a phantom through the outskirts of Ridgewood. It stayed to the shadows, its movements masked by the encroaching fog. The scent of humans, of their food and their fear, reached its nostrils. It peered through the windows of houses, observing the inhabitants within. Families gathered for dinner. Children played on living room floors. Couples snuggled on couches, bathed in the flickering glow of television screens. The creature watched, its expression unreadable. A low growl rumbled deep in its chest. Hunger gnawed at its belly. It had been a long time since its last meal. The scent of grilling meat from the bar down the street was intoxicating. The fog rolled in with unnatural speed, blanketing Ridgewood in an eerie silence. It was as if the town had been swallowed whole by a ghostly shroud, leaving only the faint outlines of familiar landmarks. The once vibrant streets now seemed like a forgotten memory, lost in the mist. The air, thick and heavy, carried an unfamiliar musk, a primal scent that set teeth on edge and raised goosebumps on exposed skin. It was a scent that spoke of ancient woods and hidden secrets, of things best left undisturbed. The fog seemed to breathe, alive with whispers and shadows. The laughter from the bar seemed distant, muffled. It was as if the fog had wrapped itself around the sound, muting it, transforming it into something otherworldly. The once clear and hearty laughter now felt like echoes from a dream, barely reaching the ears of those inside. Inside the double barrel, conversation began to dwindle as the patrons noticed the sudden change in weather. The usual clinking of glasses and hum of chatter faded, replaced by a tense silence. Eyes darted to the windows, where the fog pressed against the glass like a living entity. Sheriff Thompson felt a prickle of unease. He had seen many things in his years of service, but this fog was different. It felt almost sentient, as if it had a purpose. His instincts screamed at him to be on guard, to prepare for something unknown. He couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. The fog seemed to carry a weight, a presence that pressed down on his shoulders. It was a feeling that gnawed at the edges of his mind, refusing to be ignored. The hairs on the back of his neck stood on end. It was a primal reaction, a warning from deep within his subconscious. Every instinct told him that danger was near, lurking just beyond the veil of mist. "Damn fog rolled in quick," grunted a burly trucker at the bar, wiping condensation from his beer glass. His voice was rough, tinged with unease. He had seen his fair share of foggy nights, but this was different. This fog felt almost malevolent. "Never seen it this thick before," he added, his eyes narrowing as he peered through the window. The fog outside was impenetrable, a solid wall of white that seemed to pulse and shift. His words were met with uneasy nods. The patrons exchanged nervous glances, each one feeling the same creeping dread. The fog had changed the very atmosphere of the bar, turning it from a place of refuge into a cage of uncertainty. The atmosphere inside the bar, once jovial and carefree, had taken on a decidedly uneasy edge. Conversations were hushed, and every creak of the floorboards seemed amplified. The fog had brought with it a sense of foreboding, a promise of something dark and unknown lurking just out of sight. A blood-curdling scream shattered the night, piercing through the stillness like a knife. The sound was so intense it seemed to echo off the very stars themselves. It came from the alley behind the double barrel, sharp and full of terror. The kind of scream that sends shivers down your spine and makes your heart race. The patrons inside the bar fell silent, their eyes wide with alarm. Conversations halted mid-sentence, and the clinking of glasses ceased as everyone strained to listen. Sheriff Thompson, his hand instinctively reaching for his holster, rushed towards the back door, followed by a handful of the braver locals. His mind raced with possibilities, each more terrifying than the last. The alley was a scene of chaos. Objects were scattered everywhere as if a tornado had torn through. The air was thick with tension and the smell of fear. Trash cans lay overturned, their contents spilled across the ground. The remnants of the day's refuse, now a part of the night's horror. A figure lay sprawled in the middle of the alley, unmoving. The dim light cast eerie shadows, making it hard to tell if they were alive or dead. Towering over the scene, shrouded in the swirling fog, was a creature that defied description. Its presence was almost otherworldly, as if it had stepped out of a nightmare. It was massive, easily 8 feet tall, covered in thick, matted hair. The creature's sheer size was enough to instill fear in the hearts of even the bravest souls. Its eyes, glowing with a malevolent light, fixed on the approaching men. There was an intelligence in those eyes, a cunning that suggested it knew exactly what it was doing. A guttural roar erupted from its throat, shaking the very foundations of the buildings around them. The sound was so powerful, it felt as if the ground itself was trembling in fear. Bigfoot had made its presence known. The legend was real, and it was standing right in front of them, more terrifying than any story they had ever heard. The men knew they were facing something beyond their understanding, something that would change their lives forever.